Today we're talking about perceptions. And we're throwing all the rules out. You see, YouTube tells me I should formulate this great big statement to hook you in. YouTube says that without that statement, you're going to click out of this video. But I'm about 112 million people becoming independent thinkers. And that's why I'm throwing all the rules out of the window. I'm throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Today, it was raining out. Today it was cold and it was miserable and we were standing in line at the farmer's market. And I'm going to tell you that story because it really does come back to perceptions. And perceptions is one of the principles, the foundations, the basics of mindset. So, I go to the farmer's market and I'm standing in line. And the line's long. I probably have 15, maybe 20 people ahead of me. And it starts raining. And I'm standing out there in a t-shirt. And it's raining. And I'm starting to get wet. And it starts out as a light mist. And then it gets a little bit harder and a little bit harder and a little bit harder. And then it's a light rain. So it's nothing absolutely miserable. But it is raining on me and I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not completely uncomfortable. And this lady behind me is complaining about, oh my God, it's raining. My hair's wet. This sucks. Why don't they move the line? Why don't they make 2 lines? Why don't they have a bigger canopy so that we could stand up? She's making all sorts of excuses. And all I can do is like bite my tongue because maybe she doesn't have the same life experience that I do. Maybe she's just having a bad day because we all have bad days. But for me, it really comes down to perception. But in her rant, it brought me back to my neighbors in Queens. Now, I live in a very rural area. I live in an area that has a population of 14,000. And I come from an area that had 14,000 people essentially on my block. Right? I came from New York City. I moved to the Poconos. I'm kind of in the mountains. Woods all around me. But when I was in the city, I had these 2 neighbors. And these 2 neighbors, like, it's funny because this lady's complaining behind me about the rain. And my 2 neighbors were talking to me about the rain. And when the lady behind me was complaining about the rain, she triggered me to remember a story of when I was back in Queens. So I went out, and on my way out during basically the same thing. It was raining pretty good. And I went out and I said hi to my neighbor. And my neighbor said to me, oh, today sucks. And I'm paraphrasing now. But today sucks. I'm going to walk across the mud. I'm going to get to work and I'm going to have to walk across the parking lot and it's going to be raining and I'm going to get dirty and I'm going to get wet and it's going to be cold and it's going to be miserable. And she just kept going on and on and on. And I wished her a nice day, and I went off and I did what I had to do. And when I came back, I ended up seeing my other neighbor. My other neighbor said to me, because we waved hello to each other, and my other neighbor had the exact opposite take on the day. Isn't today beautiful? I literally what are you talking about? Because I was influenced by the first neighbor. What are you talking about? Yes, I love how the rain glistens off the leaves. I love how the rain is going to produce great flowers. The rain's a beautiful thing. And I stood there in the moment, in that exact moment, I was completely confused. Because I was still in the mindset of the first neighbor. Of it being miserable out. And it was, like in all honesty, in that moment, it was cold and dreary and damp, and I wasn't really that happy. I was more in favor of the first neighbor's view than the second neighbor's view. And I wished them well, and then I went inside. And that's what I thought about today. And now when you hit the fast forward button of everything I know, of all of my experiences in mindset, and especially Bruce Schneider's 7 levels of perception, I now view today cold. It's cold. And it's not really cold. It's in the 50s. It's damp. It's raining on me. I could describe the day, and I kind of do describe the day as miserable. Like it's not a day I want to be outside. It doesn't attract me to be outside. I was standing in this rain at the farmer's market, getting my vegetables and my meat, and I treated myself to some bread and some cupcakes. Some sweets, like that's my downfall. But what today taught me was perceptions really matter. Because without that rain, and this is the thought I had when I was on the line to pick up my meat, and the lady was standing behind me. Without that rain, I wouldn't be able to turn my faucet on and have water come out. I wouldn't be able to take a warm shower. You see, it rains, and we have to live through that momentarily miserable moment, if that's how you perceive it, to be happy. Who here does not love a warm shower? Raise your hand if you don't love a warm shower. Raise your hand if you don't like a cool glass of water in the middle of the summer when you're sweating. Raise your hand if you wish you could never wash your dishes. Who here wishes they could never wash their laundry? Right? So we take those things for granted. But in order to have those pleasantries, we need to have days like today. The lady behind me was taking all of that for granted. Not because she was being facetious, not because she was a horrible person, but because of the box she was placed in by society. Things should be hunky-dory all day long. We order from Amazon, we get a package on our doorstep, like that. Everything's instantaneous, instant gratification. I always want instant gratification. But that's not how it works. It works with, we have to pay our dues ahead of time. How do we pay our dues ahead of time? We live through the miserable days of the rain, the coldness, the dampness that we have today. Tomorrow the sun's going to be out, the faucet's going to be working, the hot water's going to be flowing, and we're going to be like, yay! But that doesn't come automatically. Everything has a price. We have to work for it. Now you're saying, but I don't have to work for the rain. Yes, but it's something that we have to go through. And that's how it works. That's how success works. We have to kind of pay our dues up front, and then we get paid for it. The rainy days is how we pay our dues up front. The cold, miserable days, how we pay our days up front, for the flowers, for the water at the spigot. It absolutely amazes me how people think they are owed or entitled to anything. You're not owed anything. You're not entitled to anything. Everything's a blessing. Think about when COVID hit. We thought we were entitled to going out and being with our friends, and then COVID hits, and now we're not allowed to go out and be with our friends because being with our friends, like, just think about that. Like, just think about every day's a blessing, and I'm going to make the best of every day. That's what we're about. We're about thinking for ourselves. We're about not believing what society tells us. We're about believing the story that we can piece together through reading, through research, through listening to different people and hearing their views. Elon Musk is the perfect person for this. Research and YouTube. He's walking around doing an interview with an individual. That individual asks him a question, and he's like, "Oh, I never thought about that. That might work for those. Let me contemplate that." And he changed the system and the process he used, all because somebody asked a question. And he didn't take offense to that question. Instead, he said, "Oh, you know what? You might have a point there. Let me contemplate it. Let me think about it. Let me think for myself. I'll make a conclusion. And if it makes sense, I will apply it." And that's exactly what he did. And that's what I implore you to do. I implore you to think for yourself. Guys, around here, we believe in living in the numerator, not in the denominator. Go out there and be unstoppable. And absolutely crush your day. I love spending time with you. Molly loves spending time with you. Ro loves spending time with you. We all love spending time with you. And we wish you a very blessed day.